I want to start off with a very bold statement that our president and CEO made at Summit this year in Boston. Jim Whitehurst this year basically said, planning is dead, as we know it. As we know, there's always a caveat, right? He said that at our customer summit, and basically what he meant by that, he's a strategist like myself. He was Boston Consulting Group, then he took Delta out of the issues they had during the 90s and came to Red Hat as a president and CEO. He's a strategist. You know, when you look at strategy in general, the basic core principle of it is you define a vision. If you're in the commercial or private sector, you know, you got a vision. It's a 3 to 5 year outlook. You're trying to figure out how do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace? How do you take market share? And then you go through a planning process. You define a plan, rally the troops, and you execute the plan. Of course, execution's everything. You can plan all you want. If you don't have a good execution, you will definitely have issues. So the idea is define a vision, build a plan, execute the plan, take the market share as you execute. He basically said, nowadays, it is so hard to predict the future. Things are happening so fast. On the private side of things, competition, DevOps driving a lot of change in the market, you really can't define with great certainty what that future vision is. And what instead is a strategy, you have to adopt an organizational structure, an agile approach to doing it, and look at a major platform to help with the modern innovation of your company. And at the end of the day, that's all Red Hat does. We provide capabilities to make you go fast and to be agile. And so if we look at, from Gartner, what we're seeing, you know, over the past 30, 40 years, as long as I've been in IT, you know, we've always made these increments of like 10, 20%, maybe 50%. But you saw from Gene's presentation, we're talking orders of magnitude in speed improvement, right? And so IDC talks around this digital divide where there's people that are slow to adopt this new approach to how they operate, structure their business architecture in general. And if you wait too long, you can't catch up. If you're talking 10 or 100 times, we had 2 orders of magnitude in one of your slides from the Puppet Labs report. Some companies are, you know, the high performers versus the low performers. The most recent Puppet Labs survey, we're talking 2,500 times faster. Like their lead time is 2,500 times less, which is a key indicator when we look at the financial performance of companies nowadays. And some of the huge market incumbents that are looking at digital transformation, they're the guys that are in control today, right? They're the big guys. They own the market share. And if you look at those particular organizations, they hired McKinsey. They hired McKinsey to look at how does this digital disruption happen? You know, at the beginning, if you look at the gray part of this curve, there's a lot of entrance into the market. They're trying to innovate, look at new business models, et cetera. When one actually takes critical mass and starts to accelerate, if you haven't built an organization to adapt and be agile, you can't catch up. One of our customers here in Canada, CBC, CBC.ca, all the sites underneath CBC, they looked at being much more quick within their business. They wanted to burst to public clouds. They looked to containerize their entire website, and they use OpenShift under the covers to do that. They're able to innovate and bring new features to their public website on a daily basis. Province of BC, I won't talk a lot about it. We've already talked to Todd, but you know, they can basically provision new supporting environments in 12 minutes to support new projects, right? The technology value stream that Gene talked about, all those pre-development all the way to pre-prod and testing environments. They can basically, they spend more time talking about the name of the project than provisioning the environments. And before that, this was months, right? Again, orders of magnitude increase in speed and agility. The other thing I'm really proud of for governments, and I deal with governments right across Canada. I spent a lot of time with the feds. In fact, I was with the feds last week, and we spent a lot of time talking about agile government. And this next generation government as a platform, government 2.0, open government, what we're trying to do is look at government transforming itself, government providing a platform that nonprofit, constituents, for-profit-based organizations, creating a marketplace to innovate on. And I think the province of BC is an excellent model of how this new government is being transformed. So think about the road system within this fine country, right? You look at the major roads. The government is responsible for the rules and the policies of that platform, of the road system. But they don't own the businesses that connect to those roads to innovate, deliver value. They obviously aren't, some of them are people, but basically the government itself is not controlling how innovation is happening. They basically looked at using open source and the open source methodology as that marketplace. They actually can allow nonprofits, constituents, and profit organizations innovate and deliver source code, which then can be put into our OpenShift product to deliver new digital services to the constituency. So the agenda today, I've already done the first two topics. I've talked about the new world of strategy, the art of the possible, and now I'm going to spend a little bit of time on digital transformation. I think a lot of us in the room have already sort of answered the question, yes, digital transformation is happening. But I want to quickly talk about what PricewaterhouseCoopers looked at when they surveyed 1,400 CEOs in 83 countries worldwide. They basically asked the CEOs, where's digital transformation? Where are these expectations coming from? There's greater expectations that our leadership are under to deliver new things to new users, to the market, to the users within our businesses. And the good news as IT people is, technology is one of the major ways that they want to broaden and deliver more to their stakeholders. If we turn our attention to the CIOs within our organizations, right now CIOs on a large-scale survey said that 16% of their revenue is going to be through digital transformation, but by 2020, it's going to be over 37% of their revenue is going to be a result of what IT delivers to the organization. And when you look at that, the technology that the CEOs are looking at, they're looking at using transformational technology to deliver on these new and broader expectations. But as we talked about this morning, technology, honestly, looking at you straight in the eye is the easy part of the equation. It's really about culture, processes, organizational change, new ways of doing things. We're also, with the introduction of cloud-native platforms, is changing the way we architect applications and we deliver value to the organization. But really, we need to focus on looking at new ways of delivering value through the technology value stream. Why now? If we look at IT professionals, the people like the rest of us in the room right now, IT professionals said, look, we're going to play a role in this new transformation, but we feel that we're not ready, we're not prepared to handle all this major change that's going to happen within our companies. If we look at most organizations, sort of the route we're seeing, the trend in general, organizations are trying to balance what they have today and how they innovate in the future, okay? And they sort of take this journey of optimizing what they have on the right-hand side of the slide, optimizing what they have, looking at a standard operating environment, having a manufacturing methodology with common elements in the technology value stream. They're trying to gain efficiency. They're trying to find time. They're trying to find people to actually innovate, and they'll embark down that process. They're also looking to improve productivity. As we innovate and build modern applications and deliver more value, we still have to integrate with the existing systems within our data centers, our existing applications, our data and processes. So there's major investments. If you look at boardroom discussions, integration, I mean business integration as well as technology integration is a major topic within large organizations. We now have this opportunity to increase agility through public cloud. And how do I leverage public cloud responsibly? How do I embrace this new vehicle that allows me to be very fast and agile? And how do I build more modern applications to deliver that value? If we sort of look at where we're, from a cloud perspective, where Red Hat is, we believe within our organization that you're still going to have the traditional applications. You're going to still have the client server, the end-tier applications, but containerization is becoming sort of that next fundamental building block of how you build IT. And if that's the case, then the container management platform is basically a new way you manage IT. So it's very critical to instantiate that platform I talked about to gain the speed and agility of organizations. And of course, we believe we want to give you choice in terms of where you want to operate those applications and that value, whether it's on-site through a traditional physical model, whether it's a virtual model, whether you want to run private cloud or public cloud, or open hybrid cloud. And really, RHEL being sort of our flagship product, and a lot of clients think of Red Hat, they think of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. The operating system is starting to become a very strategic decision within the company because a lot of the constructs I'm about to talk about are constructs built within the operating system. Brian talked about containers from an application developer's perspective, but a lot of the isolation of processes that comprise an application are done by the operating system. And that operating system is a core foundation of how you build your IT environment. So anywhere you run Linux today, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, you can run basically the products that we bring to the market, giving you choice and portability. Around the management is changing very rapidly within organizations that are embracing hybrid cloud. Red Hat Insights is a particular product. It's predictive analytics. It has an AI engine underneath the covers. It goes out and basically looks at all the intelligence we've built in our knowledge bases to give you predictions on what is possibly going wrong within your environment before it happens, and to give you platform configurations and to actually kick out Ansible playbooks to remediate those types of things. Ansible Tower, I'm not going to steal Chris's thunder, but he's going to be on later today talking about Ansible in a lot of detail. But we're finding if you're going to be fast and agile, you have to be obsessed with automation. And I mean obsessed, to the point that I usually recommend to executives that we need to get our hands off the keyboards, maybe not in coding, but our hands off the keyboards in terms of when we're configuring assets and processes within the organization. You should be writing a recipe or a playbook, as we call it, to do that configuration, whether it's a server device, a storage device, whether it's an application, whether it's creating a pipeline supporting a DevOps environment. Satellite helps organizations with provisioning Red Hat-based products and delivering the operating system. And CloudForms is an IT service lifecycle asset management platform that lets you control and govern and embrace public cloud responsibly, giving you those self-service features to your developers to let them develop. And I guess, to borrow from Gene, one of the fundamental questions that you have is if you're a high-performance organization or not, or is to look at, on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you promoting a production change? Like if a developer was to create a piece of code to go to production or make a change to production, how comfortable today to put it in production are you? Or do we have to go through a multi-month operation to actually produce that change? If you want to be a high performer, you need to invest in the tools, the culture, and the organizational structure to support that. So some trends and some best practices around modern innovation approaches. When we look at modernizing applications, modernizing our infrastructures and our organizations, there's 3 key ingredients. We want to automate, we want to integrate, and we're looking at various types of tool sets around that. API is becoming a very dominant way of integrating applications together, how we build new microservices architectures to decouple the monolith into various single-purpose services, and containerization is a huge part of being able to allow you to be able to do that. So if we focus on applications today, there was a question in the back earlier around, what do I do with my legacy applications? Some of the time you can rehost it, you might be able to containerize it, and get some of the features of a DevOps approach to doing that. Maybe leave your integration layer alone. Other organizations will look at their applications and re-platform them. The legacy application remains intact, but they're looking at new ways of integrating with the existing applications and data sources within their organizations. And then lastly, in a lot of cases, you're going to look to refactor. You're going to build and look at the business logic of those applications, refactor it, rebuild it, and run it through this fast new approach of doing DevOps, right? So we're basically leaving the legacy alone and looking at net new features and build out new applications. Now, integration is a major part of how we need to abstract and allow modern innovation to happen. An API-first approach is key in terms of defining loosely coupled integrations with existing systems, or when you're building a net new application and you're worried about how you're going to interface with it in the future, you need to look at an API-first approach. Container deployment is an excellent way to look at separating and creating a distributed integration layer. I think a lot of us have grown up with a centralized enterprise service bus within your organization to allow applications to connect to back-end systems and other apps. We're looking at a distributed approach to integration, and containers let you do that. So if we look at connecting and collaboration, the APIs and microservices are an excellent way for reusability and creating a modular environment that supports the DevOps movement. Each team then allows you to break up your teams into very specific network of teams within your organization to allow you to do the technology value streams to different parts of the services making up an application. And APIs is an excellent way of doing that. So from a process perspective, as we look to transform and create a digital organization, a lot of these processes, there will be manual aspects to that. We need to look at automating any of those operational decisions you have within your business, looking at rule-based decisions or complex event processing to allow the system itself to make decisions on how you make offers to the market. A lot of executives are looking for visibility and control over business processes, particularly the new processes you're encapsulating within the company from a digital perspective. From provisioning, configuration, and orchestration, we need to make this efficient and consistent. You need a consistent approach to provisioning and configuration and the orchestration layer, again, being obsessed with automation. And as you look to automate the enterprise, we need to think about compliance and audit, security, et cetera, and we need to build that into the automation engines so that we don't have configuration drift, and we know things are being securely done, and we have an audit trail in terms of who configured what. And that can be, the good news is that can be done with automation today. If we focus on automation to get to speed and agility, you can make a small investment in automation. And usually what happens is an individual, maybe within a particular part of the technology value stream, makes that investment to automate, makes their jobs better. And if you adopt an automation platform for everyone, if you have a universal language, you can actually take that language and allow everybody within the organization to automate. And ANSIBLE is one of the answers to that question. So allowing the business, the developers, the QA, the security, and the operations to automate across the entire enterprise. Other aspects that we believe within our positioning of automation is it has to be simple, it has to be human readable, no special coding skills. We need to look at typically the infrastructure layer to automate as best we can. The networking layer traditionally within a lot of enterprises has been a static configuration associated with it. We need to think about automating the configurations of routers and switches and some of the connections to the outside world using automation. And ideally, I don't think we want any more agents within our infrastructures, agents on a lot of servers, and clients are tired of having those additional agents there. I won't spend a lot of time on containers. We've already talked about transforming container, how it transforms applications, infrastructure, and process. But I think we need to look at containers as a way to enable portability of applications, whether they're on-prem, private cloud, and the public cloud sphere. So from a development culture, I think a lot of organizations have looked at Agile. How many people use an Agile software process today? A few people. I think we need to look at this new movement called DevOps. It really is paving the way of how we can very quickly produce value for the organization and have a modern application lifecycle. I just hosted a panel. I talked a lot about leadership and getting leadership on board. You have to, if you're looking at DevOps in general, we have to be very open and honest when we ask ourselves, do we really want to go down this path? Are we willing to allow the frontline workers to deliver value and let them do their job through a new approach with new tools? Is your culture bureaucratic, or is it more generative? Does it actually learn from mistakes? Do we actually share those learnings across the organization? You have to look at culture around that. And open innovation labs, which we've talked a little bit about today and Corey's about to talk to, is a key way to help instantiate a new culture within your organization around DevOps. I think Gene borrowed a slide here from Gene, but if you look at the core principles of DevOps, we're trying to maximize, the first principle is around maximizing flow. Small little units of value change from development to operations, making everything visible, making every step along the technology value stream visible. If there is a cube point where you have too many jobs, work in progress happening, everybody attack that problem and push that flow to production. Learning is the second core principle, looking at how we provide feedback within the system itself, the platform itself, to fix problems as they arise. And of course, the last round, continuous learning and experimentation, always taking those learnings and broadcasting it globally across the organization. sort of the journey that we see with our customers when we look at DevOps and microservices is encapsulated here. On the right-hand side, we have sort of this, you have to create a self-service, on-demand, elastic infrastructure. Infrastructure is code. We use the term push-button infrastructure when we actually build up our innovation labs. That has to be automated. You need to seriously think about reorganizing the organization to a DevOps model where you have small teams that work together. There's actually one of the principles I read in Gene's book is around each individual DevOps team. You should be able to feed that team with like 2 large pizzas, right? Small, nimble, agile teams. Look at automation to automate not only the infrastructure, which we did in the first step, but at the application layer as well. Then to instantiate continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines to allow every day in your daily work to build applications on the go so that developers can have an understanding if their application is actually going to build to a usable artifact. Advanced deployment techniques. People have heard of blue-green, canary-based testing, a few people. So when you're making that production change from pre-prod to your production environment, there's advanced deployment techniques. Canary is an example. If you have a new set of code that you want to promote to production, it's basically modeled after the miners. In the old days, the miners would be in a mine and you'd send a canary down with them. And if the canary died, there's probably toxic gas and everybody evacuated out of the mine, right? Same idea. Put a new piece of functionality into production, see if it works. If it doesn't work, pull it out right away. A, B, maybe changing the offer that you make within an online service. So basically putting a different change into the online environment, allow a subset of the population to hit it. If it makes sense and it creates a conversion of people viewing your website to actually people consuming your services, make a broader change. So those are advanced deployment techniques that you can put in place. And finally, if you want to become a Silicon Valley.com startup, which is basically a startup with $1 billion market capitalization, that's when you finally at sort of the DevOps and the microservices maturity. So I'm just going to finish up. The technology choice you make effectively is the innovation choice you're making within your organization and how you're going to transform to become a digital company. And I hope that today you'll see that the tools that we provide and the approach to help you get there resonate. Next up, I'm going to invite Corey to come up and talk about Open Innovation Labs. And I hope that you'll take away that this is an excellent way for organizations to learn through mentorship, through residency of how to transform how you do innovation today. And I'll thank you with that.